Just saying those two names together still feels surreal. It's the kind of partnership that seemed impossible just a few years ago. Yet here we are. The seven-time world champion is now draped in Ferrari red, and the hype surrounding his first real tests in the SF25 is reaching astronomical levels. But here's the thing, it's not just hype. Hamilton's initial feedback has sent shockwaves through the paddock, and if what he's saying is even half true, Ferrari might have finally built a car that can break Red Bull's iron grip on Formula One. For years, Hamilton has been publicly and privately frustrated with Mercedes. From 2022 to 2024, he was forced to wrestle with cars that seemed to actively work against him rather than with him. Whether it was the porpoising nightmare of 2022, the stubborn zero-pod concept that backfired spectacularly, or the inconsistent handling that turned every weekend into an uphill battle, Mercedes made life hell for their star driver. And while Hamilton tried to put on a brave face, it was painfully obvious he hated the unpredictability of the car. Then he jumped into a Ferrari, and everything changed. His reaction was immediate and undeniable. The man was glowing. Not just happy, but ecstatic. After years of trying to tame a car that behaved like a wild stallion, he finally had a machine that felt natural. A car that, in his own words, wants to be driven. That's a massive statement coming from someone who spent the last few years feeling like he was fighting his own machinery. Now, let's be real for a second. Hamilton has always been careful with his words. He knows the weight of his statements, and he understands how the media will run with them. But even with that in mind, his praise for Ferrari's engineering was on another level. According to sources within the team, he has already told the engineers that the braking system and mid-corner balance of the SF23 gave him more confidence than anything he's driven in years. Think about that. The same Lewis Hamilton who won 6 titles with Mercedes. The same Lewis Hamilton who dominated an entire era of Formula One. This is the car that makes him feel confident again? That should scare the hell out of every other team on the grid. And Ferrari isn't wasting time. They're already working on tweaks to the SF25 specifically to suit Hamilton's driving style. Adjustments to the braking modulation, differential tuning, and even cockpit ergonomics have been made to ensure that Hamilton can extract everything from this car. Former racing driver and Italian motorsport analyst Vicky Piria had a front-row seat to Hamilton's Fiorano tests, and what she observed was fascinating. Hamilton wasn't just getting a feel for the car, he was testing it like a scientist in a lab, playing with brake balance, pushing the limits of grip, even deliberately inducing minor lockups to understand the car's behavior. The man was already in deep development mode. That's not the behavior of someone easing into a transition. That's the behavior of someone who knows he has something special on his hands and wants to perfect it. The contrast to Mercedes could not be starker. Mercedes spent years clinging to flawed ideas, convinced that their engineering genius would eventually prove them right. That stubbornness cost them dearly. While Red Bull adapted and perfected their design philosophy, Mercedes floundered, struggling to understand why their car refused to cooperate. Hamilton suffered the most. Week after week, he was forced to wrestle a machine that had no stability, no consistency, and no ability to fight at the front. He watched Verstappen rack up wins while he fought just to make podiums. But now, he has a reset. Ferrari is giving him a clean slate, a real shot at an 8th world title. And if there's one thing we know about Hamilton, it's this: when he smells blood, he does not back down. That's why 2025 just got way more interesting. The SF23 was already a step in the right direction for Ferrari. It wasn't perfect, it had clear weaknesses, particularly in tyre degradation, but it showed serious improvement in the latter half of 2024. Team principal Fred Vasseur openly stated that their final upgrades were from another planet in terms of performance gains. If Hamilton's initial feedback is anything to go by, those gains are setting a very strong foundation for the SF25. Ferrari's biggest advantage over Mercedes? Their aerodynamic philosophy. The SF25 is rumored to feature an entirely new front suspension layout and a more efficient aero package designed to increase cornering speed while keeping tyre wear under control. That alone is a game changer. And then there's the wild card, Hamilton's development input. Say what you want about him, but one thing is undeniable: he knows how to develop a car. Hamilton played a critical role in shaping Mercedes' dominance, fine-tuning their setups to extract every ounce of potential. Now, he's bringing that expertise to Ferrari, working closely with technical director Loic Serra, ironically, a former Mercedes aerodynamicist, to refine everything from brake response to energy deployment. If Ferrari listens to Hamilton and capitalizes on his knowledge, the SF25 might not just be good. It might be an absolute weapon. But here's the elephant in the room: Charles Leclerc. Leclerc has been the guy at Ferrari for years. He's endured the heartbreaks, the strategy disasters, the underperforming cars. He's built his identity around being the man who will bring Ferrari back to glory. And now, he has to share the stage with the seven-time world champion. This is not a normal teammate rivalry. This is personal. Leclerc isn't just fighting for a title. He's fighting to prove that Ferrari doesn't need Hamilton to win. So what happens when the season starts? If Hamilton gets the upper hand early, does Ferrari quietly shift focus to him? Do team orders come into play? Or does Leclerc double down and turn this into an all-out war? Because make no mistake, Ferrari cannot afford internal chaos. If they want to beat Red Bull, they need both drivers firing on all cylinders. A unified Ferrari is dangerous. A divided Ferrari, a recipe for disaster. And the competition? They're not sitting still. Red Bull is still the undisputed king. McLaren is making terrifying progress. Mercedes, despite their setbacks, always finds a way back. And then there's Aston Martin, with a certain Fernando Alonso lurking in the shadows, waiting for his chance to pounce. This is shaping up to be one of the most competitive seasons in years. Ferrari has everything to play for. They have the car. They have the drivers. They have the hunger. But now comes the real test. Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari Red is no longer just a fantasy. It's reality. And with every lap he completes in the SF25, the stakes for the 2025 Formula One season keep getting higher. The buzz is undeniable, the hype is through the roof, and the paddock can barely contain its curiosity. But while the headlines scream about Hamilton's excitement, the real story isn't just about him. It's about what Ferrari has built, how he's adapting, and whether this seismic shift can finally deliver the championship they've been chasing for over a decade. Make no mistake, this is not just another high-profile driver switch. This is a power move, a statement of intent, a sign that Ferrari is done with being the bridesmaid. They didn't sign Hamilton just for the publicity. They signed him because they believe he's the missing piece to finally dethrone Red Bull. And from what we're hearing, Hamilton might just believe it too. The early signs are sending shockwaves. His first tests at Fiorano and Barcelona have provided a glimpse into what's coming, and the results are tantalizing. The SF25 isn't just an evolution of last year's car. It's a fundamental rework, designed to correct Ferrari's past weaknesses while maximizing its strengths. Hamilton himself has been full of nothing but praise for the balance of the car, a stark contrast to the rollercoaster ride he endured with Mercedes over the past few years. No more snap oversteer. No more rear-end unpredictability. No more praying that the car behaves when he throws it into a high-speed corner. For the first time in years, Hamilton feels like he's in control again. And that, folks, should terrify the rest of the grid. Ferrari isn't just bringing a new car to 2025. They're bringing a new philosophy. Gone are the experimental designs that force their drivers to adapt to an inconsistent package. This time, they've prioritized stability, consistency, and adaptability. The three things Hamilton has been screaming for over the past few years. We already know that Ferrari has completely overhauled the front suspension, moving to a pull rod setup similar to Red Bull's, which should allow for much greater control over pitch sensitivity and tire management. The SF25 is also rumored to feature a revised rear-end architecture, further improving traction, a key area where Hamilton struggled with Mercedes' unpredictability. Perhaps the biggest shift? Aerodynamics. Ferrari has taken inspiration from Red Bull's design cues, focusing on better airflow efficiency without sacrificing top speed. If they've truly nailed this balance, we could be looking at a car that is finally capable of competing across all track types, rather than just excelling in specific conditions. And let's talk about power. Ferrari's 2025 power unit has reportedly taken a massive step forward in efficiency. Less fuel consumption, better energy deployment, and improved reliability. It's not just about peak horsepower, it's about how consistently that power can be delivered over a race distance. If Ferrari has figured this out, their Sunday pace, the Achilles heel that cost them dearly in 2023 and 2024, might finally be solved. But all of this technical innovation means nothing if Ferrari doesn't fix its biggest flaw: strategy execution. Ferrari fans know this all too well. Having the car isn't the issue. Having the competence to manage a championship battle? That's where things get dicey. How many times have we seen Ferrari throw away race wins with brain-melting strategy calls? How many times have their pit stops cost them crucial track position? How often has the Scuderia found a way to shoot itself in the foot at the worst possible moment? Let's be blunt. Ferrari cannot afford to make the same mistakes in 2025. With Hamilton now in the mix, the margin for error is zero. The man is a strategic genius on race day. He's spent years mastering tire preservation, undercut timing, and in-race decision-making. If Ferrari listens to him, they have a real shot at playing the long game against Red Bull. If they don't, well, we all know how that story ends. But strategy isn't the only potential problem lurking in the background. Let's be honest. This is the battle everyone wants to see. Charles Leclerc is not Carlos Sainz. He's not going to roll over and let Hamilton take the lead role at Ferrari without a fight. This is his team, the one he's suffered with, the one he's built his identity around. He's not about to let a 7-time world champion waltz in and take over. And that, my friends, is what makes this so damn exciting. Leclerc has never had a teammate like Hamilton before. He's never been measured against a driver of this caliber. Someone who has dominated an era. Someone who knows how to win titles. And let's not kid ourselves. Leclerc isn't just fighting for wins. He's fighting for status. The Tifosi adore him. The Ferrari hierarchy backs him. But if Hamilton starts outperforming him consistently, what happens then? We've seen Ferrari fall into civil wars before. Prost versus Mansell. Schumacher versus Irvine. Alonso versus Massa. Vettel versus Leclerc. Internal chaos has destroyed Ferrari title campaigns in the past, and if they aren't careful, it could happen again. The only way this works: total unity. Ferrari cannot afford to let these two tear each other apart. If they want to win, they need to be smarter than that. But let's be real. How long does that last? Imagine it's round 3 in Suzuka. Hamilton and Leclerc are running P1 and P2. The undercut is the fastest strategy. Ferrari has to decide who gets priority. Who do they back? And more importantly, how does the other driver react? This isn't just a driver battle. This is a political game inside Ferrari. And if they mishandle it, 2025 could go down as one of their most chaotic seasons ever. So, let's break it down. Hamilton has the hunger. He finally has a car that works with him instead of against him. Ferrari has the resources, the technical innovations, and the power unit improvements to take the fight to Red Bull. But all of that means nothing if they can't execute. Can Ferrari finally stop self-sabotaging? Can Leclerc and Hamilton coexist long enough to bring Ferrari back to the top? Can Red Bull be dethroned? Or is this just another chapter in Ferrari's book of what could have been? One thing's for sure. 2025 is going to be absolute chaos. So let's hear it. Who's coming out on top? Will Hamilton secure his historic 8th title? Will Leclerc prove he's the real future of Ferrari? Or will Red Bull and McLaren shut them both down? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe because this season is about to be wild. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. This is